This project is very familiar to the mayor and council. I won't go into a lot of history on it except to say that from direction of the council and the Moscow School District Board of Trustees, up to an amount of $1.5 million from the city and from the Moscow School District Board, we have partnered on the development of the Joseph Street Playfields, which have been named now the Moscow School District Community Playfields. We went through, council's familiar with the project, familiar with the process that was employed. There was an authorized representatives committee that consisting of Walter Steed, Dwight Curtis, and myself on behalf of the city, a Moscow School District trustee, Deb Adair, business manager, and Greg Bailey, the superintendent of Moscow School District. Also was employed a design planning team consisting of stakeholders as well as staffed by representatives of the city, the school district. Bill Belknap, Les McDonald and Dwight were also on that committee, as well as representatives of the Moscow School District. The design team for the project was Design West in conjunction with the Land Group and Hodge and Associates in Moscow. A design was put together. It was duly advertised according to law. Bid opening was April 1st. Prior to that process being let out to bid, there were cost estimates and design review. The ARC was consulted. The superintendent, myself, Bill, Deb Adair were asked to look at different concepts to determine, okay, how much money did we have to do the job, how much project could we get for that, and how could we maximize the amount of project we could get for the $3 million total gross cost, which came out to approximately a construction project of $2,550,000 after contingency, after design costs, and all the ancillary costs that go along with that. After several meetings, there was a base bid or a base project that was going to be bid out. That base bid included the drainage for the fields themselves, backstops, parking lot, those sorts of amenities, and then there were identified different alternates. In your packet, you have bid results from the bid opening of April 1st that reference those different alternates. Dugouts were an alternate, as were scoreboards, storage building, and I forgot to mention in the base bid there is a bathroom concession building that has a second floor for observation of the 3 competition fields around the main field area of the project. So the ARC authorized that, and we reported to council and the Moscow School Board of Trustees that there would be the base bid, and I believe there were 12 alternates, Bill, am I correct? Those 12 alternates were meant to address all of those issues. Should we be lucky enough to get some good bids, that we could then select alternates depending on the amount of money that was left over after the base bid. 12 alternates is quite a few, but it provides maximum flexibility and allows you to be able to maximize any extra money that you have when doing the project. Bid opening was set for April 1st. I attended, as it did Bill Belknap, Moscow School District Superintendent and business manager, and Mayor Lambert just happened to be in my office, so he came along as well. Greg Papineau was there. Suffice it to say, as the CCSR points out, we were not on lucky enough to get conservative bids. The base bid of the project came in at $2 million. The apparent low bidder came in at $2,970,000. Again, as I indicated, the base bid estimate was, or the construction part of the project is $2,550,000. So we are in essence between $400,000 and $450,000 short money to take advantage of the base bid. Remember, the base bid does not include the dugouts, does not include the scoreboards, does not include the storage shed, and 9 different other amenities that go along with what we had hoped and what we had designed the project to entail. So we were a little bit surprised by that, and since last Tuesday when the bid opening occurred, staff has been working with the project architect to try and determine what the reason was for the bids. As I said, the estimate for just the base bid was off by at least 15%. So, and there was a professional estimator whose services were retained for this project. When the bids were opened, it was discussed that there are a lot of capital projects going on right now. At the airport quarterly regional breakfast meeting last Wednesday, I had the good fortune of sitting next to a gentleman in charge of facilities at Washington State University. Indicated that they had in excess of $200 million of active projects at this time, not all on the WSU campus, but a significant amount of money over there under construction. Idaho has a bunch of projects under construction. Pullman High School at a bond of $66 million is being designed and will go out to bid. Moscow High School, $8.5 million. The Colton School District, $10 million. So there are significant capital projects that are going around. One thing we noticed on the bids as they came in is that almost all of the bidders, there were 3 responses to the bids. The subcontractors for almost all the bidders were the same, which is pretty strange. We had bidders from pretty good coverage. I think Bill told me this morning there were 16 plan centers that had access to these plans. So it was a nationwide effort that we expected that we would get some good responses. We had, as I said, 3 respondents. But if you look at the yellow portion at the far right hand of the bid sheet that I've given you, you can see that a lot of the subs are local and a lot of the subs are the same. The speculation is that there is plenty of work out there. This project did not bid at a prime time. Most of these contractors already have their work for the upcoming construction season. The prime optimal time to bid out a project is October through perhaps mid-February, end of February. So this was just not the right time, but it fit in with the council and the Board of Trustees time frame that the idea was to get this thing out, get these fields constructed so that the kids could play on them as soon as possible. So, as I indicated, on the base bid, we're between $400,000 and $450,000 out. Whenever you look at options, you've got to look at a couple different things. One is just inject more money into the project. 2 is look for places to save and see if you can do some deducts off the project. And 3, the more likely scenario is to do a combination of both. And of course, there's always 4. And 4 could be abandon the project altogether. 5 would be perhaps reject all bids and then wait and bid at a more opportune time. What we're doing at this time is interacting with the project architect. Bill's done a lot of work with Ned Warnick, who has done the work for Design West. One of the things we don't want to do is it doesn't make a lot of sense to rebid the project if your bidding climate isn't going to change. If there's that much work out there, we need to assess whether or not a recommendation to rebid will in fact yield any savings. Secondly, we're looking at the responses as close as we can to determine what the reason was for them the estimator being so far off on the estimate. And if it is in fact because of the market, because of the amount of work that's available at this point, then you just have to look and see how much work there is out there, how long that is going to last, and whether you will realize significant savings by delaying. Then, of course, there's the idea of looking and determining if there are some things that can be deducted out of the project that will not significantly negatively impact the project, and alternatively, and usually in conjunction with, whether we could inject some more capital into the project to make it happen on the time frame that the council and the Board of Trustees wants to proceed with. As I said, we're in the process of doing all of that right now. I'm not prepared to make a recommendation to you at this time. The ARC will be meeting on Wednesday, discussing what we found out from the architects and determining what sort of recommendation we want to bring forth. The design planning team will be meeting on Thursday to take a look at whether or not any of those recommendations would significantly impact the design. In the meantime, we'll be doing that economic analysis both from a financial and a market determination to determine whether or not rebidding would significantly assist us, and if the council and the board decides to move ahead, what additional injection of capital it would take to get the project done that the council and the community contemplated. So all of that is going on right now. Have no real recommendation for you at this point. It's too soon. The bids are good for 45 days, so we have a little time. However, we're still proceeding expeditiously, not with breakneck speed, because we don't want to break our necks, obviously. We want to get as good information as we can, but in order to preserve the very aggressive time frame for construction, if the decision is to move forward in this construction season, we don't have a lot of time to play with. If you recall, the original plan was to open bids on the 1st. We would have a they would be taken to council tonight, and they would go to the school board tomorrow night. So as it sits right now, I'm here to give you a report. Met with Superintendent Bailey and Deb Adair and Bill this morning to determine what sort of report would come forward. Superintendent Bailey will be giving a similar report to his board that you're getting tonight, just that we are working. We will work diligently to try and get you some recommendation or at least a list of alternatives sometime next week. We're also working on potentially having a joint meeting between the council and the Board of Trustees. We're getting to the point where if there needs to be some additional work done on this, and if there is a consideration for additional funding coming forth or cutting some things out of the project, that we will need both elected bodies to weigh in on that, and the best way to do that is to sit around the table and talk about it. So again, we should have some answer on that toward the middle to the end of this week, and we'll set that up as quickly as we can. Happy to answer any questions I can, but there's not a lot more information out there than the one I've just given.
I got a couple of comments I would like to make on this, Gary, because this has been a work in progress for quite some time, and hopefully the folks in Moscow really recognize as the school board's worked hard on this, the whole entire school district, as well as our superintendent, Greg Bailey, the city of Moscow has as well. This project at Playfields has been going on for a number of years. This is something that's been a work in progress for quite some time. And I got to tell you something, not only the school board and the school district as well as the city, there's been a number of groups out there, the Moscow Baseball Association, for example, a number of volunteer people that have spent countless hours trying to make things work. And I'm going to, this is the statement I'm going to make. Folks, we need to figure out a way to make this thing work. And the project has got to be done, and it's got to be done in the proper fashion. That's my point of view. Of course, I'm just one person. I'm the mayor, but that's how I see it. You know, if you have ball fields, you're going to have backstops. You have ball fields, you're going to have dugouts. And we need to think about this process. If we're going to do this thing, we need to do it right. And as Gary said, I was there because I wanted to see the process with this bid and how it worked, and see the players in action. And one of the things, and Gary had mentioned, there was 16 of these sheets had been sent out for bids around, and we only got 3 of them back. And that's just telling you the scope of work that a number of different firms throughout the region, not just here in Moscow, but throughout this entire region, and they're very, very busy doing things. And so I suspect, as well as a bunch of others, that's why we have a higher bid process than what was actually thought of. But it's something that we're going to need to work, and we're going to have to buckle down and do something on this relatively quickly. And if we ever work together, this is the time, folks, that we need to make it happen. Now I'll open it up to the council for any questions. Yeah, Tom?
Well, I just wanted to spend a few minutes just trying to figure out the money piece of it right now is we're off 500,000
For the base bid,
for the base bid.
which does not
It
give
doesn't
you
include
the
any of
project that
those
you had approved.
alternatives. Right. So so your two alternatives that you said that are the go-forward alternatives were either cut something from the base bid or find another $500,000.
If I can qualify that.
So that's what I wanted to hear more about those two pieces.
Okay. And again, I'm just telling you that's the approach.
Sure.
Not suggesting that either of those approaches will work, mainly because, Tom, we don't have all the information we need. As I indicated, one of the assessments...
We don't know the person that's going to write the big check for that.
Well, that's a big piece of it, but, you know, if it turns out that the bids are inflated because of some reason other than that's the market at this point, then it doesn't make sense to proceed and just pay an overage because you're essentially being held up. And I'm not saying that that's what's happening, but we don't have enough information at this point. If it is the market, then the council needs to assess, or we all need to assess, that how long will this last? And rebidding is really the alternative. If you don't take advantage of these, if you reject them, you're back where you were. You either rebid right away, or you wait till a more opportune time. Whether there's deducts that can be done in the process, or in the project, whether there is an opportunity for additional money, that's what we still need to flesh out. So those are just two typical approaches. We haven't fleshed out either one of those at this point.
Art had a question down here.
Yeah, regarding the deductions from the base bid, say we start saying, let's pull this out, pull this out, pull this out. Doesn't it, in fact, have to sort of go back out to be rebid by the contractors anyway? And how far does that progress before we wind up with going right back to scratch anyway?
Yeah, and certainly you can't change the nature of the project. If you significantly change the project, then yes, you have to go back out.
$1 million is pretty significant.
Well, again, these are just all potential. And
Do you
if
just ask the low bidder, you know, what could you come back with, or do you have to ask all three respondents?
we would have to consult legal counsel to determine how to do that, if it is at all possible. But suffice it to say that if the project changes significantly, then it needs to go back out. And right now, you have an apparent low bidder, but that bidder has not been qualified. You're not being given a recommendation that the bidder has met all the statutory and bidding requirements to be named a successful bidder. That's all held in abeyance as we are not going to anyone saying, hey, can you do it for this, can you do it for this? What we're doing is trying to determine what the ultimate scope of the project will be, based upon the bids that we've received.
Bill?
John?
Yeah, Gary, with the 12 amendments to the construction agreement, what is, if we got all 12 of them?
Probably around,
$6 million.
yeah, about $800,000 more than we have in construction at this point. Roughly, and there may be some, we do have a slight contingency, smaller contingency than we would like, but there's a chance that we could cut that a little bit. Those are all things being looked at, John, but yeah, I'd say about $800,000 roughly to get the entire project.
Plus the 450 that we thought we were not going to have to pay.
No, that would include that.
That would be
That
all
would
of it, John.
Oh, that's the...
Bill, go ahead. Bill actually has worked the numbers better than I
Bill
have.
Belknap, we will hear from you next.
So if you're looking at the base bid on the project and all 12 alternates, the total cost of those for the apparent low bidder was $1,044,120 above the project construction budget.
Say that number again.
$1,044,120. That is the base project plus all 12 alternates. It was not the expectation that all 12 alternates would have been selected, though. I mean, those were individual components that were priced separately so that the district and the city could look at what elements we would like to add in the project, look at the priorities, and see how deep that could go. Ultimately, the cost estimate for the base bid was right about at our construction budget. There is a little bit of money in contingency, a couple $100,000 that was in contingency that you possibly could have looked at to add an alternate or two of items if the pricing came in a favorable way. But it was never the expectation that we were going to be awarding the base bid and all 12 add alternates. Those were always priced to give the district and the city options to look at pricing on elements and amenities that we'd like to add to the project. Ultimately, the hope was the base bid project that included all the field improvements, the parking lot, the restroom concession facility, along with the 6 dugouts and the maintenance building would be achievable in the project. That was the hope. If we got favorable bids, we would be able to reach that point. That number right now is about $558,000 out of the money that was available for the construction project. There are some things that are being examined in some of the spec, some potential substitutions, not changing the material nature of the project that could yield some cost savings. And so we are examining some of that. But I think there will be a recommendation that we'll be formulating with the district that will be coming forward to the council for your consideration as well as the trustees.
And again, the numbers that Bill just gave you, the numbers that I gave you, we're looking at how much of the contingency we can utilize. Are there alternatives that can be identified in the project itself to determine what that would be? And of course, you don't have to choose all 12 alternates either. The 12 alternates and the base bid were what was designed. But you only have such and such a budget, so you prioritize those, and that's what the ARC and the DPT did, design planning team. And that was presented to the council and the board.
Well, there's no real action we have to take other than wait and hear what's going on.
It's merely a report.
Comment.
We're all disappointed, obviously. Looks like it's $1 million more than what we'd anticipated to actually get everything done. I don't want to not go forward. I want to move forward still as fast as we can, as expeditiously as we can, but not recklessly so. It looks to me from your description, it looks like the reason it's higher than what it is they've got a lot of work to do, and if they're going to do it, then they're going to get paid for it, and that's all part of being in business. But I'm a little disappointed, and I realize it's only been a week since the bids were open. I thought from the description in our packet that there would be some recommendations that we would get that we could help guide staff with. But at this point in time, I don't have any recommendations other than let's find out what's going on and move forward.
We will do so.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Gary.